Get this, the English Christians within Leicester are having to listen to the Islamic call to prayer 5 times a day from 70 different mosques. Have a listen to this. This is the residents of Leicester's morning wake-up call. But yet, they don't want us to ring our church bells. Please, will somebody explain this to me? Somebody make this make sense.
The situation in Leicester has sparked fierce controversy. Christians there say they are forced to hear the Islamic call to prayer from 70 mosques 5 times a day, while even their own church bells are restricted. This raises a serious question about religious fairness and freedom. Why is one side allowed full expression while the other is silenced? The frustration among Leicester's Christian community is not just about sound, but about equality and respect. If this imbalance continues, it risks deepening cultural divides and fueling resentment across the city.
Just in the last few seconds, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has now confirmed he will meet President Trump in Washington on Monday. He said the meeting on Monday would be to discuss all the details regarding ending the killing and the war, and added he was grateful for the invitation. Shall we see what Kevin Schofield and Susan Holder make of that as they're here? Good morning, Kevin.
Morning.
What do you think?
Well, what I think is interesting is that before he met Putin, Trump was talking about the next meeting being involving the 3 of them, which clearly is no longer on the table. If Zelensky's having to go to Washington rather than meeting, and Putin during the press conference said, well, the next time you should come to Moscow. So I think the prospect of the 3 of them sitting down together, I think, which was always pretty unlikely, I think, has now completely gone. And obviously hope that this time Zelensky gets a better reception than he did that last time.
Yeah,
I mean, he was just bullied, and it was just horrible to watch. However, the one thing I say, I mean, I am quite kind of positive about this in many ways. I just keep thinking about the fact that when I worked for the NSPCC and we used to go in and talk to children in schools, the one thing we were always told to kind of say to kids was, you have to keep talking for anything to get better. And they are talking. And it might not, there are people kind of, say, oh, but nothing's happening, and oh, we don't know this, and all this is not happening, and all Zelensky's not there. They are that's better than we were last week.
Well, don't they always say that you keep your friends close but your enemies closer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. And also it'll be interesting is between now and Monday, will Russia continue bombing Ukraine? In which case, it's clear that Putin's got no interest in peace. And at least then Zelensky could turn around to Trump and say,
but is Zelensky going to stop?
Well, yeah, I think he wants to stop. He has said he is willing to accept a ceasefire if Putin does, but there's no indication that Putin does at all.
I mean, the problem with all of this is that there are some intractable points.
Yes.
Which is...
but surely there always is in every war that somebody would say, this is an intractable point, this is no-go, and then something shifts.
Yeah, which means there's got to be a compromise.
Yes.
Now, is Zelensky going to compromise on land, on borders,
well,
new borders?
He says constitutionally he can't. There would have to be some sort of referendum in order for that to happen, and they can't have a referendum while there's a war going on. So,
and you can understand that point. If somebody said to us, "Well, everything's going to be fine, and we're not going to do it if we just give Kent away," would we do that? No, we wouldn't.
No,
of course, we wouldn't.
No.
But
they could give away the idea of joining NATO and the EU.
Yeah,
you got to say you can understand Russia does not like NATO. And the idea of having even a bigger I mean, Finland's just had a massive extension extended Russia's border with NATO massively when it joined last year.
Yeah.
So the idea of having it increase even more...
No, you're right. I mean, there does have to be compromise on both sides. It doesn't appear thus far, though, as if Putin is willing to compromise on anything. We know that he wants to take over the entirety of Ukraine. So is he going to compromise? It doesn't seem like. It doesn't seem like he gave any indication in his talks with Trump last.
But then again, we weren't we're not in the room, and we're certainly not in his head. And I think these things can turn on a sixpence.
But one way or another, the war is going to have to end. The question is on what terms and on whose terms as well.
What about this? Because Trump's approach is interesting and also problematic in that he does seem to, and he has seemed to side with Russia quite a lot. I mean, we saw that with what we saw in the Oval Office last time. Now, he has changed his position since then, but do we worry that because he's had the meeting with Putin, that he's now going to be a bit more drawn over by what Putin had to say?
100%. I mean, he has oscillated from one way to another. We talked about how they treated Zelensky in the Oval Office the last time, and then he seemed to swing against Putin. He got very frustrated with the fact that the killing was still going on. But then last night, he gave an interview to Fox News after he'd met Putin, and he was Vladimir this and Vladimir that, and Vladimir agreed with me that I won the 2020 election, and you just think, Putin is playing him like a fiddle here. And so it will be interesting what Trump's approach to these talks with Zelensky will be. Is he going to be back to the Oval Office Trump, giving Zelensky a hard time? Maybe he will.
But Trump's unpredictability and the fact we can never kind of work out what's going on in his mind is kind of his weakness and his strength, because it does mean unpredictability in negotiation is actually not a bad thing.
And Zelensky actually agreeing to go to Washington on Monday. That's quite a brave move.
It certainly is. Well, he's a brave man, isn't he? He's proved that again and again.
I mean, we were talking to a Russian exile earlier on who was saying that he thinks one of the big sticking points which Trump will have to handle on behalf of Putin is he wants Zelensky to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand Putin's position on that, but if any compromise involves removing the current president and installing one that is more Moscow friendly, I mean that would be crazy, wouldn't it?
It would be. Well, I don't think any of us would want to see that.
No.
Well, I suppose we have to hope that Trump wouldn't want to see that.
All Trump cares about now is ending. Trump wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Basically forever going on about all the wars that he stopped. And if that's the price, he'd be willing to say, you've got to do it. But Zelensky's... And
actually, if he pulls that off, he probably would deserve it.
The panel's reaction underscores a simple truth. Dialogue is the only path forward. Zelensky's decision to head to Washington signals that, despite the brutality of the war, diplomatic channels remain open. Every meeting, every conversation keeps the possibility of peace alive, even if progress feels slow. The symbolism matters too. Ukraine's leader showing up in person emphasizes both urgency and resilience. While skeptics may dismiss it as political theater, such talks are essential steps in maintaining global attention and pressure for a resolution.